Mic check. Mic check. Mic check.
My rates, what currency volatility is going to look like. Think about FX volatility in the fallout of this. That's another thing that no one's talking about. That's another tertiary, secondary impact that's going to happen here. I mean, does anyone remember the amount of FX volatility there was on the day of the announcement? There was tons, and in the months of the fallout after this, there's going to be FX volatility. Any company operating internationally is going to have to deal with that as well.
Hey,
some reshoring
costs,
production,
Stock Talk, don't worry.
costs, all that stuff. Yeah, what's up, Luffy?
Don't worry, Stock Talk. I was told Bitcoin fixes this.
Yeah, I was told that too. I was told Bitcoin benefits from this, and Bitcoin's down more than the S&P 500 during this. So what? This another thing is, and I'm not hating on any Bitcoin people, but a lot of Bitcoin bulls were advocating for institutional involvement in Bitcoin. This is what you get. You're going to move with the market now, because the institutions that own Bitcoin, when they're delevering in this environment, you think they're like, but we'll keep Bitcoin. No, they're selling to companies even that have no tariff impact. Kratos, one of my favorite stocks in the market right now, that's getting sold too, because I think they have almost zero tariff impact. Benchmark issued a great note on it too, and they were like, dude, they have like no tariff impact, but it doesn't matter, because even Logical talks about some biotech companies that have no tariff impact. They're still getting dumped. Everything's
dude. They're getting sent down to the basement, man. It's insane.
Yeah. There's biotech companies that are trading at like 3x cash, or sorry, 1/3 cash.
Yeah, dude, I literally own stocks that trade like half of the cash on the balance sheet, and they still go down 5% a day. It's like nobody cares. Every equity is getting sold. I do think that, again, I'm still going to hold on to this thesis, is that like in an economic slowdown, people will still need medicine. And I'm still holding my hat on that. And I think about it as like the 2022 perspective, where the only thing that worked in the market is energy. And so there's always going to be a bull market somewhere. And if we do continue to stay on this path, like, sure, there might be some effects of tariffs to these healthcare companies, maybe in terms of COGS or something like that. But these are 80-90% gross margin business. Their COGS are not that high. So even a 10-20% impact is what are going to take them to 88% gross margins. Okay, they can eat that. And my thought is, look, a lot of these companies in other sectors is like tech and consumer, they're going to be pulling guidance. Dude, these commercial biotechs, they're going to keep their guidance, and they're going to probably raise their guidance, and they're probably going to beat estimates. And they're starting from very low valuations. It's the exact opposite scenario of a lot of other things. So I think maybe earnings can be a potential catalyst, because people are still going to look for places to allocate money somewhere that might work. So I'm still sticking to my thesis. And right now, I will say being early feels a lot like being wrong. I think that every equity is trading one-to-one correlation. And I am hoping that at some point there will be bifurcation of things that work and things that don't work. And most things will not work. But I have a thesis, I have conviction in it, and I placed my bets, and I'll just have to see it through at this point. But I could see that working because I do think that they will actually, when investors are in this market and they're looking for growth somewhere, they will find it there.
Yeah, for me, I'm approaching it much more simply. I'm just going to stay cash and puts until I feel we've come to some kind of resolution for this tariff thing. And when that happens, I'm just going to buy the same old market leaders because I think they're going to lead all over again. So that's the way I'm going to approach it.
I totally get that. And I think for me, it's more like I'm still trying to find some sort of relative strength in the bear market. But I agree. I mean, it does seem like just better. And
can you imagine how much the Mag 7 are going to run if we get past all this?
No, of course. And I will pivot accordingly. I'm just hoping because in the off chance that I am right, imagine when everyone else is down, 20, 30%, and you're up 20, 30%. I mean, that could be like make your career kind of year. So I am willing to take a bit of a risk on that. And we're
logic.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's funny you're talking about this, and this just literally just popped up on my timeline. Trump quote: "We're gonna tariff our pharmaceuticals."
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like as though the
He said
algorithm's
what?
listening to this. We're gonna tariff our pharmaceuticals. We're gonna be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals.
This guy's a moron, man.
And futures are
And
ripping
Q is
faces
ripping.
right now.
Ripping.
Is there news?
I don't know.
I'm looking for it. I don't see it.
I don't know. It feels like there may be. I don't know. That was a really large move, and it's continuing now.
I'm seeing like South Korea industry minister says shipbuilding can be good card in negotiating with U.S. over tariffs. Discussing cooperation on military vessels with U.S.
Filled.
It's the last thing I'm seeing out right now.
I don't see anything.
I don't think that's enough to pump us.
I mean, bounces are going to happen too, so we don't get too excited. But yeah.
I mean, what define ripping, right? Like, what does that mean?
120.
That's true. I mean, we're up like 1.5% off the lows in after hours on low volume. So yeah, I mean,
and I mean we were down in the after hours, so it's just nothing is really gonna. Yeah, you can trade this, minute to minute, but until something gets resolved, it is what it is.
It was 200 points in NQ. That's a pretty lot on one 5-minute candle.
Wasn't it 7% in 30 minutes just yesterday?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
we had like a
crazy
10%. No, it was like almost 10% on NQ, and when that fake news headline came out, it was like a 9 point.
Not NQ. I thought it was a 7.4% move on SPY.
On the S&P, I think it may have been in the sevens. Yeah. I know it was like it was just under 10. It was like 9 point something on NASDAQ in that 15-20 minute period, and then it reversed 60 something percent of it.
I saw a lot of people blaming Walter for that, but Walter didn't even make that up. That was like distributed by some Goldman newswire that then hit the Bloomberg terminal, and it was on there for like 2 minutes and then deleted. And Walter, by that time, had tweeted it out, as had the rest of Fintuit. So, I mean, I'm not saying everything Walter tweets is responsible or correct, but in that case, I feel like he was getting kind of scapegoated for that yesterday.
If I want to be,
they were trying to scapegoat him, but it elevated him. I think.
If I want to be devil's advocate and I place an order and I put out a headline and I want to cover my ass, maybe I leak the Walter as a scapegoat. Just throwing it out there.
Order filled.
One thing Walter can take from that is he definitely can move markets.
Filled.
I don't know if it's a good thing that he recognizes that.
Dang, Frank, you doing work over there, buddy?
Filled.
Yeah. I just bought 70 MQs and sold them up 40 points. That's it. I'm out. That's the day right there. It's like playing freaking video games. It's crazy. All right.
Yeah, this thing's on hard mode right now, Frank.
It's unbelievable. I had all in at 44 and all out at 68. 55 to 68. Now they're back down again. Crazy.
Look, I just can't see a world where this guy just said today he's going to do 104% tariffs and they go into effect in the next 5 hours.
Yeah.
And we wake up tomorrow morning and they're actually in effect and we rally. I just, if that happens,
first
like,
off,
I mean, that would be the pain trade, no? That'd be the pain trade, no? Right? Like
I don't know, man. I think there's too much hope there's still a lot of hope in this market, to be honest. And if what's real, like if that's actually going into effect, I don't think we're pricing that in right now. Like if we were really pricing that in, SPY would be at like 300.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, if you're talking about pain trade, the pain trade would be that it just levitates, wipes people out, and then whenever it's like optimistic, it really flushes.
Yeah, and I think Stock Talk has the right idea here. Is like you just have to be like, if you're long, you need to have hedges. If you're short, you need to have hedges, and you just need to be a little bit more market neutral, or you just need to be in cash until this settles out one way or another. Like there's just, yes, it can whipsaw, it can rip in your face, but it's not enough to. If it's not enough to change the thesis, then the upside is very limited.
I mean, that's the caveat. The caveat we're waiting on, right? Stock Talk is that the uncertainty has been the dark cloud over our head this entire time, and the dark cloud keeps getting darker, but we still don't know what the final story is going to be here. And then another quick piece: we are just 2 hours away, 3 hours away? No, 2 hours away from those tariffs hitting.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always cohorts of different risk tolerance in the market, right? You have sellers that show up early who think, hey, this is not going to get better, I'm going to sell now. That was like the selling we saw like 2 weeks ago, and some people thought that was the bottom, hilariously. But that was the selling we saw 2 weeks ago, and the selling we saw more recently, like last week, that was selling related to people who were like, oh, wow, that they actually went into effect. I didn't think they were going to go into effect. Now I'm going to sell. And the selling we saw today off the top and into tonight and potentially into tomorrow is the selling of, holy shit, they're at 104% for China, which is the single most important party in this whole equation. And that's an unheard of number. You know what Wall Street's average, this is a good quiz for the panel. Actually, not even a quiz because I'm not going to go to you one by one. None of you are going to know the number. But just from a nerd that reads analyst research all the time, Wall Street's average estimate for tariffs on China going into the year was like 17%. And we are now effectively at 104% going into tomorrow. Like, that's just disjointed from any possible reality or analytical probability. And that's a problem, So things, I keep saying this, but like things have to change. Like they have to change. Like there's no way his advisors are not in his office right now, like, yo, dude, this is not going to work. Like, it's a little too far. You push the leverage a little too far. We have to, fix this. Yeah, President Trump officially signed executive order. Yeah, I already read that. We talked about that earlier. Officially signs executive order raising tariffs on China.
Kato from Japan just said the same thing that you said earlier. Sees Forex could become issue in tariff talks with U.S.
Yep, and we were just talking about that. And if you got if we don't think that this environment is going to pressure other sensitive economic outcomes in the world, we're mistaken. Like, we've talked about the yen carry trade and what's going on in Japan with their failure of yield curve control. Like, that's another huge complicated economic scenario that could get brought back into this. The consequences for Forex volatility are numerous, and that's obviously another aspect that we touched on, but there's just like a million things you can point to that are going to get absolutely fucked up from this. And yeah, I don't know. It's just fucking stupid. Stupid is the only way to put it. It's just so dumb. I expected there to be a little bit more composure and I don't know, just like a better way of doing it. And like I feel stupid for being in favor of the policy now because I was in favor of the tariff policy being used in specific industries, but I just didn't think it was going to happen like this, and I didn't think it was going to be rolled out like this in this kind of way. So whatever. I guess I know better now, but that was just stupid. And to be honest, I actually don't even think it's Trump in particular. I think it's more so Peter Navarro and some of his other economic advisors that think this is like a macho thing to do with the global economy, like that think it's like a tough guy play. And, you know, if you listen to Peter Navarro's commentary on tariffs over the years, you'll come to understand that it's pretty similar to the way they're being rolled out now. And so I'm not trying to pin it on Peter Navarro, but I think if there is a fall guy, he's the obvious one. And, you know, the lack of messaging problem, maybe you could blame that on Trump. Maybe you could blame that on the broader administration. But that has also been an issue. Just the idea that, like, what Bessent says is not what Lutnick says, and what Lutnick says is not what Bessent says, and what both of them say is not what Trump says. And, like, that's just, I don't know, it just feels unserious. Like, it just feels like, you know, like, what are we doing here? But I don't know. I don't know. This is just a really unnecessary and weird situation, but you know, we'll wait it out. Markets will be fun again at some point. And look, I know as negative as everything has sounded here, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, it's all just negative commentary." Again, not to mention it again, but we talked about this earlier. This is mostly a really bullish spaces historically. Like since we started the show years ago, most of our panel has been bullish. Most of us have been on the long side.
Market's ripping again.
Ripping again? Any headlines?
Yeah, that's another big rip over 100+ points right there.
Are we green in the after hours now?
The 72 off for NQ and 27 for ES.
Yeah, less than 0.5%.
Okay, well, it's good to see a little optimism in the after hours session. But what I'm saying is yeah, if you're somebody in the audience that's like, oh my God, these guys are so negative, you know, what I would say is this space isn't normally like that, you know, and over the years it hasn't been like that. And so I think there's reasons to be concerned, but all of that being said, and in spite of everything you've heard today, be mindful, this is still a fluid scenario. As grim as it is where we stand right now with this policy, which will not work and will cause a global recession, it can be changed. You know, the powers that be are still in control to change the numbers on the sheet. And if tariffs come down dramatically from these crazy, stupid, absurd numbers that have been floated, 104%, 54% even, these crazy numbers, if they come down, markets will rally and they will rally hard, and I would be a buyer of that dip too.
Well, Stock Talk, just to prove that point, like yesterday we got that fake headline of 90-day pause, and you saw what the market did. Like, obviously, if there's like, we would be happy to see that, but again, I think that until you get some sort of concession, like, it's just tough to have long-lasting bullishness. But once you get it, you can be.
And not even that. I mean, like Stock Talk was saying, like if people are commenting about, or just in general, you know, how we turned on a dime. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to pivot. If you don't pivot, you're just going to get run over. And sadly, you know, there is people that are getting run over right now.